All right, welcome back everybody to Chicago Couch Scouts. Today we got NFL draft recap. So to kind of break it down real quick, we're gonna go through team by team, alphabetical order, and we're just gonna give some of our thoughts and our opinions on each team's drafts. Maybe pick out some of the few players we liked that got picked later in the draft, some of our sleepers. But yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it with starting off with the Arizona Cardinals here. I kind of like their draft. I mean,
Yeah, I
Walt.
agree. It was a little surprising to see them go like all defense like that.
Mhm.
I felt like they kind of had needs on both sides of the ball. But with like a defensive coach that could get the most out of like players that you wouldn't expect to be that good, I think like Walter Nolan and Will Johnson are home runs, and then like there's some sleepers down the board as well that I think could contribute, especially Jordan Birch on the D line because it seems like they want to do a lot of like rotating in and out. So.
Yeah, I think Nolan and Johnson are both high upside plays. I think I really liked Nolan in this draft. He went a little higher than I expected. I was expecting more towards like the mid to late 20s. But yeah, I mean, if Will Johnson's healthy, he's probably the best corner in the draft. That knee seems to be a big issue. So we'll see about that. But yeah, like you said, defensive coach, probably going to get the most out of these guys. You picked out Birch as one of the guys down the block that you liked. I thought that was a nice pick. Denzel Burke was a guy that's kind of had hype in the past, but definitely died down in recent years. Pretty solid overall. I mean, we got one offensive lineman in the draft. I do think they probably could have snagged a wide receiver. I feel like this is a pretty deep class at wide receiver. Not seeing them not come out with one was kind of surprising, but yeah, I'd say an overall pretty solid draft. Did you want to give grades or no?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd give it like a B, B plus, depending on
Yeah,
what we end up giving out for some of these other ones. But yeah, I think it
yeah.
was solid for sure. Just not like a home run. But the first two picks I really liked, and some solid ones later on.
Yeah, I think, if Will Johnson, if the knee is healthy, it's probably like teetering towards like a B plus. I think right now I'd have it at a B minus. Kind of like you said, I mean, besides the top two, like Birch could be a rotational guy. But I mean, if those top two guys pan out, they're definitely home run picks and they could teeter up to an A minus, say in that range. But I would probably go like B minus right now, just based off like, well, I mean, you can't really judge it right now, but from my opinion, no like real diamonds in the rough down the down the down the draft for them. So moving on, we're gonna go to the NFC South. We got the Falcons, and see, this is very conflicting. They got two of my favorite defensive players in the draft, but you have to factor in the trade they made to come back and get James Pierce in the late first, giving up a first next year, which was puzzling. But who knows? It could work out. James Pierce is a high ceiling type of prospect. Xavier Watts is probably my favorite pick in the draft. I'm very high on him. Ball hawk, finds a way to get to the football. I mean, he had 13 interceptions in the past 2 seasons at Notre Dame. He was definitely one of my favorite safeties in the draft. Was really hoping the Bears would come up and get him. But if I had to give a grade on this, I would see the trade's gonna knock it down for me. If they didn't give up a first next year to come get Pierce, I would probably have this in the A minus A range. But I think as with the trade, I'll have to knock it down to like a B.
Yeah, I think like without factoring the trade in, I would give it like A minus. I think they got like three guys that I could see being starters. I don't think that they got like a tier one like home run player, but I think they got like two guys that are definitely in that tier two of the draft, and then like Xavier Watts, like I think a lot of people expected him to go as early as like early second round. So I know I really wanted him for the Browns. We need a free safety bad, and Andrew Berry rolled up pick 94 into a blunt and smoked it instead of taking Xavier Watts. So that was unfortunate, but I'd probably give it like a B factoring in the trade. But yeah, like an A minus if you don't consider that they spent like a first and second round pick on James Pierce basically. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with Jack Nelson, but looking at his measurables, 6'7", 314. Billy Bowman was another guy I liked at the safety position. Yeah, I think they got potentially four starting caliber players. I think Jalen Walker has a very high ceiling as an edge rusher. I think he could potentially be a superstar edge rusher, so we'll see. I think he fits that defense really well. But yeah, that trade definitely knocks down my opinions on this draft for sure.
Yeah, next one, moving on to my well, not my division rival, the Browns' division rival, Baltimore Ravens. Very Ravens draft, I guess I would say. Like these first three picks, they just kind of took these guys that had like helium, I guess, and just let them follow them and ran to the podium. I think Starks will fit in for them and start day one. Same thing with Mike Green. Obviously, a lot of off the field stuff with him. I mean, I'm not really in a position to say anything about that, so I guess like just assume he's gonna play for now. I think it's a really good pick. Emory Jones had a lot of hype, but he kind of fell off. I think if he could go to like Baltimore, where they seem to get a lot out of these like third to fifth round picks all the time, I think he could settle in really nicely because he came in talked about as being like potentially the first tackle off the board before Will Campbell and everything. So definitely needs some development, but could be a nice player. And then I don't really know about the rest of these guys, except for LeJontay Wester, just from like watching Shadur and Travis Hunter clips throughout the year, he like really popped off on the Shadur highlights a little bit. So that could be an interesting pick. Always looking for a guy at receiver, so maybe could see him becoming a depth piece there for them.
Yeah, I thought this draft was really interesting. I mean, Mike Green obviously could be the steal of the draft potentially, like barring the legal issues. I was surprised he fell as far as he did, but that kind of makes me think the legal issues might be worse than the public knows. One guy, or two interesting picks here. First, I really like the Carson Vincent pick. Not like, I mean, he's at Alabama A&M. He's definitely a developmental guy, but like you kind of mentioned with Emory Jones, the Ravens always find these guys later in the draft and develop them up. I think he could definitely be one of those guys you look like 2, 3 years down the road, and he's just starting at right tackle, left tackle for the Ravens. So that's a name to keep an eye out, in my opinion. But another interesting pick here is they picked a kicker. Justin Tucker with some legal issues potentially, on his Deshaun Watson shit. But Tyler Loop out of Arizona, kind of just looking at this, he's at 83.75% field goal percentage in his 4-year career at Arizona, I want to say. Not too familiar, but he kicked, but he also did kickoffs and punted as well in 2020. That's an interesting pick in my opinion. Kind of
Stepped on the
insurance in
athlete a
case,
little bit there.
yeah, insurance in case Tucker something actually happens to Tucker. Yeah, I like.
Tucker was ass last year anyway, so I feel like with the allegations, it's just like, why even fucking bother? He's a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what his cap hit is though.
Yeah, he might be making some money because he used to be really good.
hmm We'll see. But yeah, I thought those were some interesting picks. I mean, like you said, it's like a classic Ravens draft. They just people guys follow them. They're good football players, and they pick them, and it usually works out. I would probably give it. I was in the A- range. I really like Mike Green. I think they took two developmental tackles. I think Emory Jones could potentially even kick inside the guard. Um, but yeah, I will give this an A-. I'm a big fan of Starks and Green. And yeah, I think Ravens drafted well, per usual.
For me, it's kind of like the Cardinals. I give it like BB plus. If Mike Green is not a rapist and some of these late round picks work out, I think it could move up to in the A minus range, just like I said with Arizona. So solid draft, really nice for the Ravens. They always do pretty well for themselves.
It's how the good teams stay good. They always draft well.
And
All
then
right.
Buffalo next.
Yeah.
Stuff from Buffalo. A lot of
Yeah.
movement. They definitely loved the defensive tackle class and just like the interior rusher class, like at large, I guess, because Landon Jackson's like a big edge. I don't know if he'll play inside for them, but he's like 270 pounds or whatever.
Mhm.
So that was interesting. A lot of trades. I think two with the Bears, right?
Yep. The Bears pick, the Landon Jackson pick was actually, so it was I want to say it was a fourth round pick. I could be wrong on that, but maybe it was a third round pick. One of these picks, the Bears traded for Austin Booker last year. They traded with the Bills, and then the Bills traded back to the Bears this year, and then the Bears traded back to the Bills. So
Got
just
it.
swapping picks back and forth.
But yeah, they added two interesting D tackles. I thought the TJ Sanders pick was a little surprising, but like I'm
hmm
not quite an expert on the D tackle class, but I thought there was names that I heard that I expected to go before him. I thought Landon Jackson was a good pick. I felt like the third round was like a little low for him. I thought he was probably going to
Mhm.
go in the second, but I mean, that's pretty reasonable position and at a spot of need for them. Keon Walker's interesting, like freak athlete, and then they have Ed Oliver, assuming he's healthy, and TJ Sanders now. So I think like he's kind of in a good spot. So just like develop a little bit, not too much pressure on him to be the guy right away, and that's what he needs because he's just like a freak fucking athlete. Like I think they had him
Mhm.
playing off the edge. He's like 300 pounds, so
Six
could get
seven 331.
yeah, it could get really interesting there. And then Maxwell Harrison, another guy with allegations apparently, which seems to be
Mhm.
a theme of this class, but really fast corner. Position of need for them because Tre'Davious White kind of washed up and left, and Kyer Elam, that whole thing didn't work out. So they need an outside corner badly. Hopefully he can fill that void for them, but I don't really see this class as anything special. I don't want to give out like too aggressive of grades because
Yeah.
like one, I don't know all the players, and two, like it's a week after the draft or whatever, like 3 days. I don't know. Seems like harsh to give it a real bad grade, so I'm gonna go with like a C, C minus. I don't see a ton here, but I don't think it was like a disaster either.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a weird draft. I mean, I think they took the better D tackle with their fourth round pick in Deion Walker compared to TJ Sanders. I mean, uh, I liked Harrison, but it's not my favorite. I did like Landon Jackson a lot. Funny enough, like the most popular comp I saw to him was AJ Epinesa, which obviously is on the bill. I think he's on the Bills. But yeah, I mean, down on the board a little bit. Two guys that stand out to me that I was kind of looking at as late round options, looking for the Bears. I do like Dorian Strong. He's 6'1", 185, pretty solid corner, really physical press man corner. And then Chase Lunt, the tackle from UConn, another. I feel like there are a lot of these gigantic developmental tackles in this draft. The Bears took one as well. We'll talk about that later, but I mean, we just talked about the Ravens taking a few as well. But this is a guy that I really liked. He's got short arms, but I mean, obviously, if he works out, he's gigantic at 6'8". He needs to put on a little weight, I would imagine. He's listed at 304, but like another guy that could potentially slide in at guard, which is funny to think of a 6'8" guard. But yeah, pretty solid class. I think I'm kind of in the same boat. It was kind of confusing to me how they went about this. I would probably give it like a C plus because I do like some of their later round picks and Landon Jackson.
Cool. Then moving on to an interesting one, Carolina made, I guess, a shocking pick because everybody kind of assumed that they would go defense, but in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense that they're kind of tripling down on the Bryce Young thing after he showed a lot of promise at the end of last season. I like the Tet pick. I wasn't like his biggest fan. Like people had him in the top 3, 5 players in the class. I wouldn't go that far, but like I thought it was a worthy pick for them. If you're not gonna get Travis Hunter, like I thought he was very reasonable wide receiver two to take. So I like it. I think he's in a good spot too with Dave Canales too, who like worked with Mike Evans, who people kind of compare some aspects of his game to. So I think that one's interesting. I like it. And the next two picks, I thought they added some much needed edge help. Princely, I'm not even gonna attempt the last name, but his draft call was hilarious. Very bought in on him as a personality hire at the very least. Nick Scorton had a lot of helium at the start of the year, kind of fell off, but like interesting pick for them.
Hmm.
They need a lot of help on the edge, so I like that they doubled down on it and got two guys that can contribute for them right away. Trevor Etienne in the fourth, another interesting pick. Canales loves his running backs.
Nice, he got extended, but I think Brooks is yeah. I think Brooks might be out for this whole year. I think he might have tore his ACL again. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's a decent pick too. I think he's a pretty good player, but I just didn't see the role. But I guess if Brooks is hurt again, like he's probably
Hmm.
not in a great spot. Then I mean, Lathan Ransom, I'm aware of. I've seen him play. I don't really think he's anything special. And Jimmy Horn Jr. again, like we talked about with Wester, like just he popped a bit on the Shadur and Travis highlights, but more last year than this year, honestly. I
Yeah.
don't think he was that
I didn't
great
realize
this
he
year.
was that small. I didn't realize he was 5'8". Jeez. Yes.
Popular late round pick in Madden franchises. He's always pretty fast. Yeah, I'd give this one like a B. I like that they filled some needs and got some help for Bryce Young. I'm really liking what the Panthers got going on. I don't think it's like exceptional, but much like with our White Sox, like when you're such a dumpster fire, just like basic good process can
Hmm.
get amplified into being like, wow, like this is amazing. So I like it for them. I'd give it like a B, but like when your owner's David Tepper, this is like probably like an A draft just because it's
Yeah.
competent.
This is actually one of my favorite drafts, I think. I mean, you mentioned Tet was kind of a surprise. I mean, if you guys were following along with our mock drafts, I had Tet at 8 to the Panthers. I think that was kind of a late development.
Yeah, I saw the betting odds before it happened, but I just like assumed that that was because of a trade or like
Hmm.
I don't know like the math behind how they get all these odds. So
Yeah.
I just assumed it was something other than him actually going to the Panthers.
I really like Nick Gordon. I mean, he had like top 10 hype at the start of the year, start of the college season. I think he was a better player at Purdue. I do like this draft though. I think they got, like you said, two very necessary edge rushers. I like ETN a lot. He's going to be able to run routes in this backfield. Him and Chuba are probably going to be a 1-2 punch, I would imagine. But I'll pick it down the board. I really like Mitchell Evans. He kind of he didn't fit in the Notre Dame offense this year, I feel like. They're more of a run heavy offense. He's not the best blocker, but he is a big dude, 6'5", 258. He's quick. I really like him. I think this is a guy to potentially look out for in the future. I think he is going to be Bryce Young's one of his best friends. I do. I really think this is a nice pick, and I think he's going to develop very nicely in this offense. But I would give this. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to sit in that like A minus range again, and I don't want to like be giving out all these great grades. I'll give it an A minus because I do think there are better drafts out there, but I think this was a big win for Carolina. I think they're gonna be I don't think you're gonna see them picking like top 8 next year. I think they're gonna win some games. I mean, Bryce Young looked great down the stretch last year and they're getting up some weapons. I think this is a great draft for Carolina.
Yeah,
But
and then definitely
my
let you lead the way
Bears
in this next one. Yeah.
my Bears, okay. So we started off the night kind of a maybe it's a shock to non-Bear. I mean, like I thought Loveland was in play in 10, especially the way the draft unfolded with Genty and Graham coming off the board. I mean, a trade obviously didn't develop because went up to 2 to get Travis Hunter. I think if they didn't trade up, Ashton Genty might be a Bear right now. But I think Loveland's a great pick. I think he fits really well in the offense at that moment with DJ Moore, Rome, and Komet. I think he fits really well with Komet. I was higher on Loveland than Tyler Warren, even though I think both players are going to be good players. I think Loveland has that higher ceiling, and I thought Warren did more of the same things that Komet did, so I thought Loveland was the better tight end to go with. I love Luther Burden in the second. He's one of my favorite receivers in the draft. Weirdly enough, he is a very similar player to DJ Moore. But I think he's going to sit mostly in the slot. I think DJ is going to play on the outside. Um, but yeah, I mean, some questionable picks on day 3. I do like Za Frazier and Kyle Maganji or whatever his name is from Rutgers, the running back. He looks pretty solid. The Ozzy Trapillo pick at the time, I wasn't familiar with him at the time, but kind of the theme of some of the earlier teams, kind of a developmental tackle who could potentially go inside. I know he's in his post draft interviews with the Chicago media. He was talking about how wants to be a versatile offensive lineman kind of sliding anywhere but center. So I've come around on this pick. I've seen a lot of there's a guy I follow on Twitter that he's like an offensive lineman, and Brandon Thorne is his name. He's got 80,000 followers on Twitter. And he just watches like O line D line film, and Ozzy Trapillo is like one of his guys. So you know, I'm gonna trust Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles here, more so Ben Johnson. I do like the Shamar Turner pick a lot. I know you weren't too familiar with him, but he definitely has a lot of flashes. I think he's gonna contribute year 1. I think he's gonna potentially break out year 2. I think that's the type of player you're looking at. I think he's gonna be a more rotational year 1. But I would probably give the Bears like a B. I think there's some questionable picks in there, but I really like Burden and Loveland, and I'd like Turner, so I would give them like a B. I'd have them in that range.
For me, like I'm probably pretty similar. I like the Loveland pick. I probably preferred him to Warren. I think he's just a better athlete, more dynamic and explosive. I think that's like kind of what they need. Like like I don't know. There's been like the Laporta comp thrown around too. It's just it seemed like a good fit with Ben Johnson, so I wouldn't knock them for that at all. Like there's a lot of people who are like Tyler Warren's a top five player, like this and that, but I don't really see that. I like the Loveland pick. Luther Burden pick I like a lot. I think it was great value. Like I think he was probably a first round player. I think for most teams it would be kind of redundant to have like Luther Burden and DJ Moore, but like if someone's gonna be creative enough to like figure out how to use both those guys, it's definitely Ben Johnson, and they're both super talented. So I don't really foresee it being a problem. Then the rest of the draft's kind of just like nothing to me. I think Za Frazier's like an interesting athlete, but it's like a fifth round tall, fast corner. I don't know. There's a lot of those guys. Apparently, Ruben Hippolyte was like outside of the consensus 300 when they took him, and he's just another like athlete. Al Monangai was very good in college football 25, so I'm gonna assume that was a good pick. But where the focus is for me is like with the two late seconds. I kind of thought that they traded back for no reason at all. Like I didn't see why they needed to like pick up an extra pick. I guess like did they even really? Because like didn't they trade a third rounder away to get the two
Yeah,
second?
so they traded down from 41 and ended up at like 50, 56 or something like that.
And then they
But
traded up with the third rounder to
yeah,
30.
from 72 to 62, I want to say. But then they also jumped up 3 rounds and picked up a fourth for a seventh. So it was pretty. I mean, the fourth ended up
Like,
being
I mean, I
Hippolyte,
guess it
but
was good value, but like considering the players on the board at 2-9, it would have been like I think coming out of that with Ozzy Trapillo, Amari Turner, and a guy outside of the consensus top 300 is like really not great. I get the like trust Ben Johnson thing, but like I think at this point, like this is that like to me it has Ryan Poles written all over it because he's like consistently blown picks in this range, consistently reached on guys that like you don't expect to go in these. I wouldn't say necessarily in the range, but Ozzy Trapillo, did people think he was going to go in the second round? Probably not. Probably like third, right? I don't know. It has a lot of like Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens, like that type of vibe. Not that they're like bad players, but it's just like, I think with a second round pick, you're looking for a hit at some point. And right now for Poles, that's Tyreek Stevenson, I think, is like his best second round pick so far.
Kyler Gordon.
Oh, and Kyler Gordon, yeah. So I mean, I guess he has some. I just like I don't know. I'm looking for more. I thought the Bears didn't have a lot of needs, and we're kind of just looking for guys to put them over the top. So I don't necessarily love spending two second round picks on like a developmental tackle and a defensive tackle. It's going to take some time when you don't really have answers there right now. So I mean, at tackle you do like I think that's a fine pick. I just like don't love the value, but I can't criticize it too heavily. But like the Shamar Turner thing, I just don't get. Like that's basically the third late second round pick they've thrown at defensive tackle, and it's just like I still don't see an answer there really. I'd give it like
I
a
think you're
B
sleeping on
minus.
Dexter a little bit. Sleeping on Dexter. I think they might move him out to the D end, rotate him in and out of there, but I think Dexter's been a very good player considering where he was drafted.
But yeah, I'd give it like a B minus. I think they got two playmakers at the top, and like it's hard to fully criticize like adding depth to the roster. I just think like the resources used to acquire it wasn't necessarily the best. But yeah, B minus for
Okay.
the Bears.
All
Going
right,
on
move.
to Cincinnati.
One of my least favorite drafts.
Yeah, I don't really like this one. I'm not gonna lie. I am only aware of two of these, or three. I know Dylan Fairchild not too well, but I am aware of him. But I didn't even know who Demetrius Knight was when he was taken in the second round. Apparently, he's a pretty good player, but like definitely seemed like more of a like fourth round guy if I didn't know of him, because I feel like I know most of like the guys up until like the mid late third round. I'm aware of Barrett Carter too, kind of just like a big linebacker, but it doesn't seem like he's very good. I haven't seen really many of the people I go to for scouting information liking him. In fact, I've seen quite a few people who are not fans of him. And then the Shamar Stewart thing, it's just like this was a very predictable pick. I think we both had this in like some of our last mocks. I think you had it in your actual one, and I had it in like my second to last one. Like very like not a lot of brain power needed to connect Shamar Stewart to the Bengals. It's what they like. They did it with Miles Murphy. Trey Hendrickson's the same size. Like they're looking for this type of body at edge, and he's a great athlete. I just like can't fully get behind it until he actually produces. Like it's great in theory, but he had like 4 sacks in 3 years or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it is a big risk at 17. I just there's some upside here. I just like I personally don't see it. This is probably gonna be my lowest grade, but I'm gonna give this one like a D. I don't really see it with this one from Cincinnati.
yeah, I mean, I'm happy they went with some defense. Obviously, positional value with two linebackers, not great. I do like the Fairchild pick, and obviously, if I mean the production wasn't there with Stewart, but he's an unreal athlete, it could work out. Yeah, I mean, nothing more to really be said. I would probably sit in this around the same area. I mean, I don't mind the Taj Brooks pick down the road, but they have Chase Brown. They have a good back room already. I would probably sit like a D plus. It could be higher if Shamar Stewart reaches the ceiling.
Yeah, nothing too crazy needs to be said with that one. I think that's been pretty
Yeah.
unanimously considered a weak class.
All right, your Browns.
Yeah, moving on to my Browns, definitely the most interesting move of the draft, trading out of Travis Hunter. And like instantly after, I was very upset about it. But I mean, looking at it now, it's like it's tough because he's like such an exciting player and like could be so game changing and like historic. Our coach is Kevin Stefanski. Like, I don't trust him to utilize Travis Hunter in the way that he needs to be utilized. So I think like it's kind of a lame answer, but I think it's good for both both Hunter and the Browns that this happened kinda, because like the Browns got really, really, really good value for him. I think Hunter gets to go to I mean, he goes back to Florida where he's from with a creative, like younger play caller who's like more, I guess open minded, you'd say. Like Stefanski's very like narrow and in his ways. He's run the same offense for fucking 6 years now, even though it stopped working 4 years ago. But anyways, besides the Travis Hunter thing, I think Mason Graham's like an A pick. I think he's perfect scheme fit with Jim Schwartz. Like historically, there's always been the Jim Schwartz loves his three down like, superstar defensive tackle thing. Just look through his history. He's had them quite a bit whenever he could. So yeah, I think that was a great pick, especially when you're trading down. Just take the best player available, especially at a position of need. The Schlesinger pick I found interesting. He's a good athlete, good coverage player, it seems, according to everyone. Can't hate on it too much. Browns have done really well with linebacker historically in the draft. I think it's an interesting one. I don't love it at pick 33, but when you're getting potential first round value, even at like a less valuable position, I guess you would say. Um, it could be worth it to a team like the Browns where we're just lacking talent overall. The Judkins pick was pretty good. I thought it was interesting, but it kind of gives me Nick Chubb vibes. Like I wouldn't compare him to Chubb, but it's kind of like similar thing, like top of the second round. The other back on the team is expected to go higher. I mean, in the Chubb case, Sony Michelle did go higher, but in this case, Judkins goes first by a pick or two. But
Well,
I think he is the better fit for the Browns at least. Like I think Henderson probably has more potential if he could actually stay healthy because he's like a home run hitter and he can catch the ball better. But I think Judkins is like what a team like the Browns needs, who has had such a poor run game since Chubb's been hurt. So I think he's just a really steady back and if they get that all line right and get the run scheme right, he could be, a star. But I
mhm.
think worst case scenario, he's a really high floor player that'll like solidify their run game for them. Fannin Jr., really interesting player. Kind of don't know what I'm talking about with him because I was comparing him to David Njoku and like everybody who knows what they're talking about told me I was dead wrong. So I don't know. I really like him. He's dynamic with the ball, but I really don't know what I'm seeing when I watch him. So
He's so slow, but
just
he's a
kind of like
very
just kind of like hoping and praying with Fannin. But I really liked watching him play. Like he just like you said, he's really slow, but somehow they just don't tackle him. And
yeah.
It's really
He
fun to
runs
watch.
so weird. It's funny.
Yeah. So I don't know. Definitely, I'm gonna retract the David Njoku comp, but I think Njoku was a great mentor for him because Njoku is also slow and just rumbles around and cannot get tackled. So I think that's maybe where the comp came from, but we'll just move on from that one. The next pick, go fuck yourself, Andrew Berry, Dylan Sampson, really nice. No, I'm kidding. Dylan Gabriel, like I think high floor backup, like decent pick. Probably a waste of a third rounder when you could have got him in the fourth or fifth, or got a different guy that's like the same quality of player, like Will Howard or whatever. Um, and then there's the other layer that we're going to talk about in a second. And then Dylan Sampson for real this time. I think he's a good complement to Judkins. Like he's like the home run hitter. He'll run like the stretch, like wide zone stuff for them. And Judkins will just barrel between the tackles. So I think that's a good like complementary pick with a late fourth rounder, like doubling up on running back. Like go for it. Best player available. Love it. Solidify that run game. Um, and then obviously my favorite pick in the entire draft, the most Cleveland Browns move in Cleveland Browns history. They trade up for Shedeur Sanders after drafting another quarterback already. I think like on I don't know if on paper is like the correct phrase to use, but like you're getting a first like a guy that should have went in the first round. Like even if you give him a second round grade as like a QB, which is like the lowest that I saw from like a serious person, like those guys go in the first round all the time. Like Kenny Pickett was like a fucking third round QB and he went 20.
Mhm.
Like, I think you're getting insane value in the fifth round. There's obviously a lot of layers with the Shadur thing. Like, he could very well get the coach fired if he's any good at all. Like,
Yeah.
Deion Sanders could be the Browns coach next year. It's a very real possibility. Or he could be terrible and they draft a quarterback in the first round and he's out of the league. Or he could be the guy and he learns from this. I don't even know if he needs to learn for this. Like, it could be a whole media creation. Like, what I see from Shadur, some of it's probably true, some of it's probably not. Like, I don't think he's the most humble, quiet guy, but like, I also don't think he's gonna walk into an NFL locker room and demand the world. So, I think if he could lock in and just like put up with the idiot coach Stefanski and win the job and prove himself, things will go well for him because this is a Jimmy Haslam pick. If Shadur performs, like, it doesn't matter what Stefanski wants. Like, he will be starting. Jimmy Haslam demanded that Kyle Shanahan fucking start Johnny Manziel. So, like, it'll happen if Shadur plays any kind of good. So, I'm excited about that. It's very biased, but I would give it an A. Like, I thought they got good value at all the picks, even though it wasn't necessarily, like, great positional value. But
Yeah.
then you get, like, a first round quality
Yeah.
QB in the
And
fifth.
you got to factor in the trade as well. You got another first
Yeah,
next
and you get
year.
another first round pick. Like, I wouldn't necessarily factor that into my grade, but like it kind of has to be. But so
Hmm.
I think it was a good draft for the Browns. I don't think it was like slam dunk A plus, and like the Shadur Sanders thing could make this like the Shadur thing and trading away Travis Hunter. Like, it's a very Browns thing because it looks like a great draft on paper, but then there's like these two layers where like in 5 years this could be like all time fucking hilarious. So.
Hmm.
That's just like the thing as a Browns fan, even when good things happen, there's just like layers where you could be laughed at no matter what.
Yeah.
So I
I
don't know
like
if
this
you have
draft
any thoughts
too.
about it. That was a lot, but yeah.
No, I like this draft. I mean, I was telling you beforehand, Graham's one of my favorite players in the draft. I think that was a very good pick. I wish they took a receiver at 33. Schlesinger is like okay.
I wish they took fucking Jalen Noel at 3-3 and probably could have got Fannin
Yeah,
at
yeah. I do. I think both the running backs are great. I was really high on Samson. I was hoping the Bears would take him, but yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
should
forgot to
there's
mention that with the Bears. I really wanted them to take Caleb Johnson. That the Shamar
Mhm.
Turner pick, I was like, fuck, man. Like, I just thought that was a perfect opportunity to get a workhorse in there, and then you could just like figure out a home run hitter.
Yeah. I mean, rumor is they're looking to sign Nick Chubb, so we'll see.
I know you don't
But
love that one, but I think that could be good. I think Ben Johnson's run
yeah,
scheme, like, you can get
if
the
he's
last.
healthy, yeah, if he's fine, yeah, fuck it. I mean, yeah, it was a good draft. They took. I think they filled a lot of needs. They got some talent on the offense, and then they have a lottery ticket with Shadur. So I think your grade's not too biased. I would probably say like I would give it an A minus. I like Graham
Yeah,
a lot,
A
so
minus is probably more fair, like when you consider the positional value aspect of it, and then like the Shadur thing is just a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean,
extra.
doubling up at two positions and then a linebacker and a D tackle and a tight end. You know what I mean? I like Fannin though, so I mean, it was a good draft. I think you should be happy with that. I know you weren't too happy until the Shadur pick, but I
Yeah.
like that draft. All right, moving on to Dallas, heading over to the NFC East. Pretty solid draft. Started off with Tyler Booker, who is I think very similar to Tyler Smith, who's already at the other guard position in Dallas. You predicted this pick, very very Jerry Jones type pick. Um, I like the next few picks. I'm big on Siobhan Revell. I like Jaden Blue a lot. I'm not too familiar with some of the guys. I know Jade Toya or whatever his name is from UCLA. He's a pretty solid player. It's a pretty decent pick in the seventh round. I think they picked what they needed. They drafted for need, and it was probably how their board fell as well. Probably give it. I mean, it's nothing too crazy, nothing too flashy. I'd give it like a B minus. See how
Yeah,
good Tyler Booker is.
I think that's the exact grade I'd go with too. I like the Booker pick. Some people might see it as a reach, but I think it's like a perfect scheme fit, and I'm never gonna question Jerry Jones drafting O-line. Like I don't think he's really ever missed. I think that's kind of like a hilarious thing how he's just like a fucking 1947 football owner and he just like makes the picks by himself still. So funny, but he's like low key not bad at it. Like there's way
Hmm.
worse ran teams in the NFL. The Azaraku pick, I thought that was a nice value. Not too familiar with him, but like a lot of people had him as like a true first rounder. So I think that's interesting in Dallas next to Micah Parsons. Like really good landing spot for him where he could be like edge too and develop. They also have like some other guys in there that are athletic, so I think it's a good group for him to go to. Maybe they could get the most out of him. Favorite pick, definitely Revel or Revel.
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Was top two, him and or top three, him, Morrison, and Will Johnson before this year. But I think he tore his ACL or some sort of
Mm,
knee injury, so that's why he slid. Dallas has kind of taken a lot of corners like that slide out. Some of them work, some of them don't. So I think it's a really good fit for him as well. I'd give it a B minus. I don't think it's like a home run, but I think it like they made some very Dallas picks, and I could see a couple of them working out.
yeah. All right, out west, Denver
Yeah, for
making
Denver.
making a strength and even stronger asset to your team with taking
Yeah,
Jedi Bear in the first round.
exactly what I was gonna say. Like they have a pretty full DB room, but like he kind of just like
He just slid
he's
to
like a
them. Yeah.
fucking utility player in baseball, dude. Like he could sub in for anybody on that defense and like be adequate in the role, or they could
Mhm.
just like play him outside corner too, or play him in the slot full time. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of options with them. It's like true chess piece, just not in like the traditional sense where it's like a safety that could like play all the different spots. But yeah, really interesting pick. Thought RJ Harvey was an interesting pick. I think he's probably gonna get the bulk of the carries for them this year. Pat
Probably.
Bryant, interesting receiver from Illinois.
Love Pat Bryant.
Yeah,
Love
a lot of
Pat
hype for
Bryant.
Pat Bryant, like right before the draft, and then he ends up going early in the third round, like when he was probably day three guy, like most of the process, I feel like.
I was expecting fourth round for him. You know, as a guy who watched all his games this year, going to Illinois, graduating from Illinois this past year. I mean, I was big on Pat Bryant. I think he's slept on. I think it was a great pick. I'm really interested to see how Sean Payton uses him.
Yeah, no, I thought so too. A little surprising they go with the punter in the sixth round over Tez Johnson. I thought that they were gonna go with like the fucking Hallmark
Yeah.
movie ending there. Didn't happen. Um, but yeah, for me, I think this was a solid draft for Denver. I'd give it like a B minus. I think they got two definite starters and then like a high upside depth player in Pat Bryant, who like probably doesn't play that much for them this year, but like I think he could develop into a good receiver piece. So yeah, B minus.
Yeah. I think that's probably where I would sit too. I feel like I'm constantly in this range for these draft grades. I do like Barron a lot. I think him next to Sertan will be really interesting.
Yeah,
Harvey is a lot of people are comping him to Bucky Irving, which like maybe they're kind of a similar build. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love the Pat Bryant pick. Probably higher than I would have taken him. I thought four was probably the earliest he'd go. But yeah, that I'm not too familiar with the end of the draft. I know Savion Jones. I'm familiar with him. I would probably select teetering between C plus and B minus. I'd probably go C plus, but I do like the Baron pick a lot.
Alright. And then Detroit, very like sticking with their team theme type of draft.
Yeah.
Tyreek
Interesting draft.
Williams, big guy in the middle, filling a big need for them. A little bit of a reach, I guess, but I kind of like it. I'm just sticking with the trenches. Same thing with Tate Ratledge. Another good pick for them. They need some depth at guard. I'm not sure who the second guard even is at this point because they had Zeitler this last year, right? And he's
Yeah,
gone.
but he didn't. I don't know. Did he resign? He might have resigned.
I don't know. I thought he left, but I'm not sure.
There were rumors he was going to go to the Bears, but I don't think. I think he might have stayed. I can look. Keep going.
Either way, Tate Ratledge is a good pick. I thought it was a fine slot for him. Good guard depth for them. He's got a lot of help on that O-line, so I think he could settle in pretty nicely. The third round pick was puzzling. Like they give up three total thirds for Isaac Tesla to move up to 3-6 and take him. Again, another guy that was pretty good in college football 25. I just didn't expect him to go early third round whatsoever. And I think in the seventh round, Dan Jackson's actually a pretty interesting sleeper pick. I've heard a lot about him from Georgia fans. He's a pretty likable player, so I think he just fits in with the culture in Detroit and can maybe catch on as a special teamer depth guy. So yeah, I'd give it a C plus probably. I don't see anything too special. Maybe a C.
Yeah.
I don't see any like standout players, but they are a pretty loaded roster, so just
Mm.
added some depth to it. Took a swing in the third round that we're gonna have to wait and see on.
Yeah. Zeitler is with the Titans now. I just looked. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I really like Tyreek Williams as a prospect. I think I wasn't expecting him to go first round. I was expecting early to mid second round, but not mad at it. I'm pretty sure Lee McNeil is hurt still. I think he had some sort of knee injury at the end of last year, if I remember correctly, but do like Ratledge a lot as well. Yeah, but obviously not jumping off the page. I'd probably go like a B minus because I think it makes them better, gives them more depth. I think the injuries killed them last year. But yeah, pretty solid draft. Going on to the host
Favorite
team,
team, the Packers.
Green Bay.
For the first time since 2002, according to Mark Murphy. Matthew Golden. I like that pick a lot. It's about damn time. But after that, like, I don't see much here, honestly.
Yeah, I like Belton. I think the Bears were probably targeting him, and he went right before they took Trapio. I think he's kind of similar to what they already have there in Zach Tom, but yeah, I mean, kind of in the same boat. Savion Williams is a gadget guy, kind of like, yeah, nothing
Gutekunst
crazy.
loves his fucking gadget weapons, dude. You can't stop him from drafting one every year.
Yeah, I mean, they finally took a wide receiver in the first round. I
Yeah,
do like
can't be
Golden.
can't be too harsh on them for that reason alone, but I think it's like a
Yeah,
C for me because Golden's
yeah,
really the only pick that means anything to me.
pretty underwhelming for the host team, but yeah, I do like. I'll go C plus because I do like Belton as well.
I
Yeah,
think
Golden was a great
Clay
pick.
Matthews pretending that Trump texted him was probably the standout for the Packers this weekend.
What a cringy dude. That was weird. That was interesting. All right, yeah. So I'll go C plus because I like their first two picks, but after that, nothing
Clay
crazy.
Matthews not allowed in Chicago after that one.
And that's still he wasn't before that.
Official
Okay.
ban.
We got Houston next. They keep the Iowa State receivers together. I really, really like this draft.
You're
I
looking
think
for a
the
fucking grade above A plus for this one, dude.
these are two of my favorite wide receivers in the draft. I think the Woody Marks trade was very weird. You know, like taking like Graham Mertz before Quinn Ewers as well was weird. But the first three picks and the tight end from Iowa, I think, are great picks. Obviously, the middle is not great. I like Jalen Reed from Penn State as well. I would probably say like a I'd probably give him a B. I think they got good value out of Higgins and Noel, and I like Ursary. And yeah, I'd probably go B.
Yeah. I'd probably go B minus as well. I like the Iowa State receivers as well. I thought Higgins had a shot to go in the first, and then Noel kind of fell further than I expected.
Hmm.
Feel
Yeah, I
like
was
he's a
surprised
little
by that.
underrated. Like he's kind of getting called like a slot only guy because he's really slow, but I think he moves. Like he's quick, dude. So I can see him winning over the top a little bit as well. Like sneaky little pick there. But I think the board kind of played out in a shitty way for Houston, and they were still able to like trade back fill all their needs and get three players that I really like out of it. Yeah, I didn't really get the Woody Marks thing either. Thought that was weird. I mean, can't really speak on the rest of the later picks. So yeah, I'd go like B minus for this one. I like it. Not a standout at the top, but like three really solid like tier three of this draft type of players, I'd say.
I really like Ursary though. I think that was a very good pick.
Yeah, I thought like he was like the last like tackle
Good,
worth
yeah.
taking in the top 2 rounds, and they
Yeah.
got him at 216, took him off the boards.
All right.
Moving on to the Colts, who probably got their way the most out of anyone. Like they were probably praying for Tyler Warren at 14.
Yeah.
Probably the most obvious fit in the entire draft process, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I think
Is he gonna
good
play
pick.
quarterback?
Yeah, probably. Fucking Daniel Jones. They got Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, and then like someone
Riley
said Riley Leonard
Leonard.
just like throwing like the worst
Up
parts of
for
them put together. Just laughing so hard. Yeah, Tyler Warren, good fit there. They really, really needed a tight end. Tuiamololau got some hype like right before the draft and ended up
good
going
player.
kind of where I expected. They need help off the edge. They've tried to address it. I think they got two sticks on as a backup for 10 years, so maybe he could be that guy.
I agree. Yeah, no, I like the first two picks made sense. Warren's, I think, gonna be a pretty good player. Kind of sticking with the theme of developmental tackles that are just gigantic. Jalen Travis is 6'8". I think he's listed at like 340, 350. So, very long arms. I think he's a project that could potentially pay off. But yeah, you mentioned DJ Giddens. He was one of my favorite running backs in this draft. So yeah, pretty solid draft for the Colts. I give it an A minus because I think the first two picks are fit their needs and they got good value out of both of them. And I like the Giddens pick as well as Travis down the line.
Yeah, for me it's probably like a B minus. I think they got two good players, and I like Giddens as like a potential backup running back. So, but I don't think it's like too special for them. Just
Mm.
filled some needs with good players, and but yeah, not a home run. Go B minus.
All right, sticking in the AFC South, we got
Jacksonville,
Jacksonville making the
fuck
big
them, take
move,
Gladstone over there.
making the big move of the night,
I
coming to get
actually
Hunter.
really, really, really like this draft.
Really?
Yeah, I think Travis is a really, really like special player. It's basically two first round picks in one. So like
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Travis Hunter, the receiver and corner at 1-2 there. And then like Caleb Ransaw fills a need. They need corner help really bad. I thought Wyatt Milam was really good
Yeah,
value at the end
I
of the
like
third
that pick.
round. He's a potential future starter for them. I think Tutton's a really good complimentary back. I don't think he'll have too much of a role this year if Travis Etienne is still on the team, but like in the future, if it's him and Bigsby, I think he could really be dynamic for them. A lot of people like Jack Kaiser, really experienced player, and they
So
kind of have a lot of depth at linebacker already, like with Devin Lloyd and Oluokun. So I think it's a good spot for like a 4-year college like leader type of linebacker, go be the third guy in there. And then Jonah Monheim in the seventh. I don't know what the deal was with him. I thought he was a pretty highly touted player going into this year. He ends up going in the seventh. Jags need O line help, so maybe he could stick on. But yeah, I'm giving this one like an A. I think for having a first, 2/3, and 2/4. Like, I really like their class. I think they got four good players and like some good depth at the back end. And then like Travis Hunter counts as two, so like five good players, two of those being first round caliber. Like, I really like it for them. I think giving up the first next year hurts and like keeps this from being a home run for me, but yeah, I think they address needs, got a really, really dynamic face of the franchise type of player, and like they're setting themselves up to be pretty good in a couple years if they get a couple more pieces.
personally, don't think I'm as high on this draft as you are. I mean, I think Hunter's a great player. I think him and Brian Thomas are gonna form like one of the better wide receiver duos in the league right away. I do like the Milam pick in the third round. Not that high on Tutton, whatever or however you say his name. He has some fumbling issues, but he's got home run potential. So we'll see. I think I like them probably behind Milam in terms of value. I think with Quince Allen in the seventh round is a very good pick. Very sneaky. I mean, we kind of mentioned ETN. I don't think he's going to be on this team this year, personally. I think they're going to try to trade him if they can. But yeah, I like LaQuince Allen a lot, especially at that value. I think he was one of I mean, I running back class was great, and he was a guy I was looking at, especially layered down the draft for the Bears at least. But yeah, I mean, getting in my opinion, probably the second best player in the draft. I would probably give it a B just because Hunter is that good, and there's a few picks down the road that are good, but there's a few guys that I don't think are that might not even be on the team by the time the regular season starts. So nothing
You.
crazy for me.
All right, we're back. Had to take a slight pause there. Gonna finish out the rest of the 17 teams we have left. First up, we have the Chiefs. Pretty solid draft, I think. I think Josh Simmons, we were both on that. We both thought that he would be a good fit there,
Yeah, for
especially
sure.
if he had to take some time off because of the injury. But in all cases, it looks like he might be ready to go if they need him for week one. Um, Pretty solid draft in my opinion. I like the Omar Norman lot pick a lot. Um, but yeah, Simmons was probably my favorite tackle in the draft. Uh, Bearing the injury is not keeping him out for the whole year. Um, but yeah, definitely was probably going to be a top 10 pick before the injury. Lucked into getting him at 31, 32. They traded back. But yeah, pretty good draft in my opinion. I would give it like I think a B plus. I think they filled some needs. They added some depth, and they got a tackle that will probably be protecting Patrick Mahomes for the next 10 years.
Yeah, for me, I thought the Simmons pick was very obvious. It feels very much like Trent McDuffie. Like a lot of people had him as like CB1 in that class, and kind of falls on the board, and you know, very commonly mocked pick. I think it's gonna work out great for them. Scary kind of injury with the patella, I believe it was, but um, I think he's in a good spot to come back and have a lot of help, and good coaching staff. So I think he'll succeed there. Omar Norman Lott was a great pick too. I feel like both of those were kind of like they just took guys that were better than where they were picked, and we're happy to take them when they fell to him. I think he'll fit in nicely next to Chris Jones. They needed help on the inside for sure. The edge rusher Ashton Gillott got hyped up a lot. I'm not really too familiar with him, but they do need help on the edge as well. They have Karloftis and like Felix Azu
As a
Uzama,
BJ.
whatever however the fuck you say that. But yeah, adding another guy to the rotation with a high third round pick that could be good for them as well. I believe that's the pick they got for Sneed.
Yes.
Galen Royals, pretty good player, added a wide receiver room. Chiefs haven't really invested too heavily in receiver, but all these like late round, mid round guys that they add seem to like play different roles for them. So, and then Brashard Smith could be another seventh round running back steal. So I think especially picking late in most of the rounds, except for with the third they got for Snead, I would give it like a B plus as well. Thought they did really well, considering where they were picking. I think that's something we didn't really mention in the first half
Hmm.
of this. That like for me, like if you're picking at the end of the round and you're coming out of it with two really good players, it's different from like if you're picking at the beginning of the round and if you're
Hmm.
coming out with two really good players. So I think that
Sure.
should be taken into consideration a little bit too. So yeah, B plus. I like the Chiefs draft for sure. Um, Staying in the AFC West, moving on to the Chargers. I like this one as well. Kind of like staying with the theme of their team with the Omarion Hampton pick. Excuse me. I like it for them though. A lot of people didn't really understand it because they went out and signed Najee Harris, but like I don't really think he's like a starting caliber player. Like I think he'll just be a power back for them. Hampton's like a three down player. He's really good. Just kind of similar to Najee Harris. That he doesn't have like that breakaway speed, but I think much better player, less wear on the tires and younger. So I think he'll fit in nicely. He can catch the ball as well. Dre Harris, big target for them. I like that one a lot. Justin Herbert's been lacking that since Mike Williams left, so that should be a good pick for them. Looking at the rest of this, I'm not really familiar with any of these guys except for Aronde Gadsden. I think that could be a pretty interesting pick. I think he was projected to go quite a bit higher before this year. So, in an offense where he could be quite valuable with a really good quarterback and coach and supporting pieces around him, I think he might be able to succeed there. So, pretty good draft for me. I'd give it like A B minus maybe. I think the Chargers roster overall still needs some help, but I think they filled a couple of needs and got some nice players that like fit what they're trying to do. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not too familiar with some of the guys down the board, but really like the Marion Hampton pick. I think he's going to fit that offense really well. Probably a big year fantasy wise if you're looking at that. But yeah, shit. Trey Harris is also a good wide receiver. I think they desperately needed that to invest in some capacity at the wide receiver position. So I'm glad they did that for Herbert. But yeah, I mean, down the line, not too familiar with the rest of this draft. So I'll probably have it in that B range because I do like what they liked at the top, what they did at the top. Um, but yeah, staying out west in LA, we got the Rams. Trading out of the first round pick. Nothing crazy here. Nothing really jumps off the page. It seems like, I mean, like I'm sure it's the Rams, so I'm sure one of these guys is just gonna turn into like a superstar for no reason. Um, I do, I do like the Terrence Ferguson pick because I think Higby is. I want to say he got hurt again, but obviously getting up there in age, I think he's a big target for Stafford. They obviously added Devontae Adams this past offseason, so that just an extra element to their offense. Yeah, Higby was out most of the 2024 season. Um, but yeah, another draft I'm not too familiar with all the names. I like Ty Hamilton a little bit. He's kind of under. He needs to put on a little weight, I would imagine, being he's listed at 299. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's. I wouldn't be shocked if one of these guys turned out to be great just because it's the Rams. But I'd probably have it like a C plus.
yeah, for me, I don't really like it too much. I'm not really familiar with anybody in this class except for Chris Paul Jr. I do like that pick in the fifth round. I think he could be a nice player for them, develop into something, maybe a starter down the line. But overall, like I have to give this one like a D or like even an incomplete because I'm just not really familiar with any of these guys. The Terrence Ferguson pick was kind of shocking. Like you trade out of the first round and then he's the first pick of your draft. Like I don't know. The Rams did really well last year. I was kind of looking for them to like kind of keep adding on to this youth movement, add like three, four more pieces just like they did last year. And even the year before, like without the high picks, they were able to add like some young pieces of that squad in the draft. So I was kind of looking for that to happen with the Rams this year. Didn't really happen for me. But it's kind of incomplete because it seems like they are gearing up to replace Stafford next year. That's why they moved out. I don't know how that's going to work out because I think like them and the Falcons are both going to be playoff teams or at least like picking 15, 16, 17, something like that. So we'll see how that goes, but I don't really like this draft. I'm going to have to go with like a D. And then back to AFC West again. Three of our last four there. This is one that I really do like though with the Raiders. With Pete Carroll coming in, I think Genty's perfect. Like Pete Carroll's gonna want to run the ball. That's kind of ironic, but yes, he is gonna want to run the ball. Jack Beck's a nice player. I think he's a good complementary player to what they have going on there with Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers and Genty now. I think he'll just be able to play a really nice role as like a wide receiver too, I guess, in that offense, but more of just like a complementary piece. Darian Porter's an interesting, like really fast, athletic corner in the third round. I think that could work out for them. They really need help at DB with Nate Hobbs leaving and Moira going to the Panthers as well. Not really too familiar with the tackles that they took. They did kind of a similar thing last year when they took. Who's that tackle that they took in the third round last year? Like kind of out of nowhere. Do you remember?
Mm, not off the top of my head,
You
but
know
I
who
know.
I'm talking about, right? I just don't know the
Yeah,
name. Yeah, I don't know. Similar thing last year though. It looks like that guy's gonna start for them this year at right tackle.
Omar
So he's
Glaze. Is that his name?
yeah Glaze, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So looks like these two guys will be like development guys, maybe a potential Colton Miller replacement. There's some contract shit going on there. I thought the Dante Thornton pick was interesting because he's really big and really fast.
Typical Raiders.
Yeah, I don't know if he's just like a gimmick player or if he could develop into something, but he definitely has the physical tools to do it. I'm just not sure how like talented he is at football. They go with like the Julian Edelman thing in the sixth round as well with Tommy Malott, and then take another quarterback too.
I think it's a pretty decent draft. I go with a B. I don't think it's like a standout, but I thought they have like three good players there and like some shots on the board as well. I don't hate it, don't love it, but I think it's a fine draft.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, the Gentry pick was obviously a pretty good one. I was hoping he would fall to 10 or the Bears would come up to grab him. But I'm not as high on Jack Beck as some people. I think he's a solid player, but I think Noel was still on the board there, so that could have been an option. They're kind of two different types of wide receivers, but probably a more talented one in Noel. I really like Darian Porter. I think he put on a show at the combine and kind of turned some heads, and his stock's been rising since then. Still went a little later than I thought he would. Thought he'd probably go in the like mid to late second, but I mean early third's not that far off, but still. And then big fan of Dante Thornton, beast in college football. So, but yeah, 6'5", and he runs like a 4.340. Big dude, typical Raiders. Big, fast, athletic. Definitely has potential to be something. Yeah, I mean, two developmental tackles. I think they added a lot of depth. I'll give it an A minus. I think they have some guys that if they reach their ceiling could be like high impact players. So I'll give it an A minus.
And then heading to Miami, kind of a shocking pick with Kenneth Grant going above Walter Nolan. I don't hate it. I think it was a reach, but I think like Miami really needed to address like the interior defensive line. Um, Stopping the run was a huge problem for them. So I think like fill a need that's pretty good, just kind of a reach. The second round pick I didn't really get. They trade up, give up a lot to get Jonas Savini. Um, they didn't have a lot of picks as it was, and they kind of give up a lot to get him. It was a need, but I don't really love that. I thought he went earlier than expected. I thought they kind of panicked when they got to their we got to the second round and they were like, "Oh, I don't think there's going to be an offensive lineman worth taking at our pick." I think they kind of panicked and moved up for him. Jordan Phillips is an interesting player, kind of doubling down on the interior defensive line. I thought he went kind of later than expected, even. Um, but overall, I don't really love this class. I mean, Ollie Gordon and Quinn Ewers down the board are interesting as like backup options. A lot of success in college with those guys, but I don't love this draft. I'd give it like a C, C plus. I think it's kind of a classic Dolphins draft where they go off the board with almost every pick. And then they just kind of have like these late round guys that might be like the third guy at their position on the team, but like quality depth. But like at some point, they're gonna have to start hitting these earlier rounds and stop trying to be smarter than everybody. I think.
Yeah, I mean two. I mean they had a first, a second, and then straight to a fifth after that. So lack the middle round depth picks as much as the rest of the league, but I like the first two picks. I think Kenneth Grant's going to be a player, uh, tremendous athlete for his size. I think they feel the huge need going guard in the second round. I think he's a very good player as well. And the Ollie Gordon and Quinn Ewers picks are very interesting to me. Obviously, Ollie Gordon was highly touted before the start of the college season. Kind of at the end of the draft season last year, people were looking at Ollie Gordon as the next great running back. Didn't have the productive year we thought he would, and Quinn Ewers is an interesting case because he has the talent. It's just he throws like his shoulder is separated every game. So I think in that offense, I mean they needed some competency in the backup quarterback position because Tua is obviously injury prone recently with the head injuries. Um, so yeah, I kind of like the Ewers spot there. Um, I saw a video of McDaniel fucking like eyeing him up at his pro day, so I think that will be interesting if Tua goes down this year to
Was he
see.
hitting his vape while he was watching him?
Yeah, probably. But I think it's a solid draft. That doesn't jump off the page. I'll go B minus, kind of in the same boat. I think I like it a little more than you, but kind of around the same area. All right, going up to Minnesota here. Um, they didn't have. Okay, so they had five total picks. Might have reached on Donovan Jackson a bit. Ty Felton's a solid player. I'm not crazy about this. I know I saw reports saying they were like extremely excited to get the guys they want. I mean, every team's gonna say that, but I'm a big fan of Donovan Jackson. I like his versatility. I mean, he can move out the tackle, can play inside. But I'm not a fan of this draft. I think the Ingram Dawkins pick is interesting. Kind of a develop. I don't. He's a developmental player, so I'll probably go like a D plus C minus around that area. I mean, not a fan of this draft.
Yeah, I think I'm going with a C minus as well. I don't mind the Jackson pick. I don't think it's a home run or anything. I give that pick like a B minus. But the rest of this, I'm not really seeing anybody that jumps out at me. Um, they have a pretty good roster. Like, there's not many glaring holes. So I guess like addressing guard, which they needed one more, does make sense. And I think Jackson will be very good there because he's kind of insulated, I guess, with the two really good tackles beside him. So I think it's fine for Minnesota. Just they're probably trying to go for it this year with JJ McCarthy taking over and a pretty complete roster. But I couldn't give it more than like a C minus, D plus, maybe like somewhere in that range. But yeah, not awful, but I don't really like it either.
Yeah. All right.
The next one though, I do really, really, really like. I thought the Patriots hit it out of the park. Will Campbell, like there is questions with the alligator arms or whatever you want to call it.
T-Rex arm.
Yeah, whatever. But I think he'll be a good player for them. Vrabel really believes in him, and I think like he's kind of putting his handprint on this team with that selection over like an Ashton Genty or a Tet. With that pick, they needed help on the O line a lot. Really like it. Travion Henderson kind of slips a little bit after getting a lot of first round buzz. I do understand it though. Like he was kind of off the field a lot, gets banged up a lot, but at the same time, like all you hear is like how great of a blocker he is, how much of a willing blocker he is. He's got home run speed, could catch the ball. So if he could stop taking so many fucking big hits, like I think that could be a great pick for them as well. And they do have Stevenson as well, so that could help. Where he's in a similar situation as Ohio State with another good back beside him. I really like the Kyle Williams pick. I don't think I'm quite Chris Sims on him, but I think he's a really good player, dynamic player. They need juice in that receiving room, so I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity early on. And then obviously the Braden Swinson pick down the board. Like I don't think anyone expected him to fall that far. They need people off the edge, so I think that could be very interesting. Another guy that could get opportunity early on. Same thing with Jared Wilson. A lot of talk about him maybe needing a year to develop, and he kind of falls further than I expected. I thought he could go like in the late second, even like to a team where he could sit a year and then take over and be really good. Maybe that'll happen in New England. Maybe they'll rush him into starting because their offensive line is so bad, but I still think it's a great pick. But overall, I'd have to give this one like an A. I don't think I'm gonna give anyone, or maybe I give Jacksonville an A plus. But
Maybe.
I'm gonna go with a solid A for this one because I don't really remember. But yeah, this is definitely my top three favorite drafts. Like definitely tier one. I really really like it for the Patriots.
Yeah.
I thought they did a lot to support Drake May with this one.
Yeah. I think that was the whole point of this draft. I mean, the first four picks were all offense. I think they sniped Travion Henderson 2 picks before the Bears or whatever it was. You could tell in their draft room that they looked depressed. But yeah, Will Campbell, top tackle in the draft after the Simmons injury. The arms are an issue, but Vrabel believes in him. I mean, he's got the edge. He's got the like grittiness to play tackle in the NFL. So I'm not really scared about his arms. I think he'll be fine. I think Henderson, in my opinion, was probably the second best back in this draft. I like Hampton, but Henderson's like a do-it-all back. I mean, he averaged 7.1 yards per carry last year. He's explosive. He can catch out of the backfield. He's probably the best pass blocking running back in the draft. Kyle Williams is an interesting pick. Like you said, they need some juice in that wide receiver room, and he can provide it for sure. But yeah, I mean, it feels like they got some good value down the board as well. You just love seeing a long snapper and a kicker in the same draft class. So yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I'd probably give it an A. I think they did a lot to help out Drake May, and might even be I don't think they're going to challenge Buffalo for the AFC East, but they might be in contention to finish
Yeah, I don't
second.
think they're going to be bad at all. I think this is going to be a year where they take a step forward, honestly. The defense won't be great, but I think they got some dudes there, so
Hmm.
I think they'll be a pretty good team.
Going down to the NFC South and NOLA, we got an interesting draft.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I wasn't a fan of Kelvin Banks pre-draft. I don't think the Tyler Shuck pick is that great. He's like 26 already. I think he's talented, but it's an interesting pick to say the least. My favorite pick, honestly, is Devin Neal, the Kansas running back in the 6th round. I like the Fadil Diggs pick as well in the 7th. I think that's a good value for him. Thought he should have gone way earlier, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of this draft. It's gonna depend how Banks develops. If he has to slide inside, who knows? I'd probably give it a D.
For me, I like the Banks pick. I think offensive tackle became a really huge need for them when Ramczyk retired. The Tyler Shook thing, um, I get it, but I don't like it. I think he'll be all right, like 27th best quarterback next year, and they'll probably be terrible and take someone else. The Danny Stutzman, great meme potential. He's done some funny shit in the past, so I like that one. Devin Neal, solid player. But yeah, overall, I don't love this one. I give it like a D plus just because I thought they tried to address a lot of needs, but I just like none of these players like really jump out at me. Like, I think they had a really poor roster. I didn't think like going against the grain and trying to hit a home run with every pick was necessarily ideal. But maybe that's just how their board lined up internally. So I gotta give it like a D plus. Just not really doing it for me.
Yeah, okay. We can get off that depressing draft. Move to one of my favorite drafts, the Giants. I think they got the best player in the draft at 3 with Abdul Carter. Dable likes Dart. I'm probably not as high on him, but he's probably not gonna play right away. At least for I would probably sum out the whole first year, but those are two lame duck, a lame duck GM and a lame duck coach. You never know when they might throw him in for a spark. Darius Alexander fell way farther than I thought he would. I thought he could have even snuck into the late first, and they got him with the first pick in the 3rd round. Scadaboo in the 4th, Marcus Bow in the 5th. Like, this is a very good draft. I think they killed it. I would give it an A, honestly. I think they probably could have taken a wide receiver in here somewhere, but I really like this draft.
Yeah, no, I agree. Darius Alexander and Marcus Bow really kind of slid down on the draft, and the Giants just scooped him up. I thought Scadaboo really fits with their current back. Tyrone Tracy seems like he's more like the wide zone kind of guy, and then Scadaboo can just run between the tackles for this team. Definitely fits with the New York Giants culture too. Those TikToks were great and very true. The Jackson Dart pick, I don't love it, but like that's what their coach and what their front office decided on, and I think there's a lot of support for him in that building. So they're either going to be really wrong and it's going to be bad and get them fired, or he's going to work out and they're probably going to be really good because the roster is quite full at this point. Like I don't really see a weakness on this team. Um, that's like too crazy. Like their offensive line could be better. They could use like a wide receiver too that was a different skill set from Neighbors because Wandale Robinson's also kind of that slot guy, so Neighbors has to be outside more. But like overall, like I think the Giants roster is pretty good now. I got to give it an A as well.
Staying in New York, for the Jets, kind of a mixed bag again. I really like the Membu pick. I think, in my opinion, I mean, he's probably gonna. If I had to guess, he'd stick at right tackle. He's probably my favorite tackle in the draft, though. Mason Taylor was a tight end I really liked. The clear third best tight end in the draft, in my opinion. R.E.A. Thomas was good value, I thought. Arian Smith is a very talented, but has some hands issues. He drops a lot of passes, like ugly drops. But I think it might have reached on him a bit. But I think he's talented enough to if he fixes the drop problem, there could be something there. Um, Tyler Barron's also an interesting pick down the board. That's a little lower than I thought he would have went, but yeah, I mean, pretty solid. Nothing crazy about it. I thought they probably could have used some help on the D line, which they didn't really address. I give it like a B minus.
Yeah, I think I'd go with like B minus for this one. I think the Membu pick's fine. Mason Taylor pick's fine. Azaria Thomas, I don't know because he's really slow, but like good player. Kind of ended up going in a reasonable spot after everybody kind of expected him to slide a little bit after the 40 time. And I think Arian Smith and Malachi Moore could be interesting later round options for them. So yeah, I'd go BB minus with the Jets. I don't think it's anything special, but I thought it was a solid draft overall, and they're probably gearing up to take a quarterback next year as well.
Yeah, unless field balls out, who knows?
Anyways, moving on to the Eagles. Jihad Campbell falling to them at 31, I guess, because they moved up one spot, as how he loves to do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I thought that was a good pick. He's probably gonna really succeed there in that defense. Everybody they draft seems to. I thought Makuba was a really good pick as well. Like they got rid of C.J. Gardner Johnson again, so like adding a guy that's probably gonna come in and start for them at safety. Maybe I don't know Sidney Brown. Like maybe he's the one that takes over, but I thought that was another really good pick. Smail Mondon down the board as well, another linebacker. And then how he loves to draft a white QB in the late rounds every year. But like, I kind of like the Kyle McCoy pick.
Yeah,
Like, I
I
think
did
he's
too.
one that's gonna like stick as a backup. Like, I think he's got like the personality in the game where he's gonna have like a pretty decent NFL career, like sticking around with a couple teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe starting due to injury or whatever at some point. But yeah, I think he'll stick around.
hmm I'm kind of surprised they didn't go line as much
Yeah,
as
well, I forgot to mention I like the Cameron Williams pick as well. Like really athletic tackle from Texas. Some people thought he was really gonna catch on and like go in the early rounds this year, and he didn't. But like, if anybody's gonna capitalize on that, it's probably the Eagles. Like, just on a huge athlete. So I think
yeah,
that's a sneaky one in
maybe like a
the
Becton
sixth round,
replacement
end of the
down the
sixth
road.
round.
Yeah, what would you grade it?
I'd probably go B plus for this one. I'd probably go B plus just 'cause, how late they were picking in the rounds.
Yeah, you know, I like the Campbell pick. Obviously, he was the best player available at that point. Surprised he fell to the end of the first. I thought he'd probably go. I think we both thought Tampa at 19 was an
Yeah,
interesting
I think
spot.
everybody thought Tampa at 19. They just decided to take Chris Godwin.
Yeah. um, I think Makuba might have went a little higher than I anticipated. I mean, end of the second, it's not that crazy, but I like him as a player. He kind of reminds me of Chauncey Gardner Johnson in a way. I like the Ty Robinson pick a lot. I think he's not gonna play at all his first year probably. He'll rotate in every now and then or play because of injury, but I think that's a good depth option to have behind Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Um, but I don't think I'm as high on this. I mean, obviously you have to, like you said, you have to factor in the draft position. I do like the Kyle McCord pick. It's an interesting one. Cameron Williams, like you mentioned. I think I'd probably say like B minus. I feel like I'm giving out a lot of B minuses, but I mean, I don't think you can judge too harshly right away. And obviously, they're picking in the end of the first, so they're just looking for players to fill in that have left in free agency and more depth options. So I think I'd stay there. But going on, staying in Pennsylvania, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Interesting draft. Not crazy about it. I think Derek Harmon's a good player. I'm not sure they necessarily needed D line as bad as. I mean, they definitely just went best player available on their board, so he'll be a good player, obviously, to an already good defense. I like the Caleb Johnson pick. He's going to fit in very nicely there, taking over the Najee Harris role. Not crazy about the rest. I don't mind the Will Howard pick. I think they're gonna end up signing Rodgers or trading for Kirk Cousins eventually, so he'll be a nice backup, and he'll learn from either one of those guys. But honestly, I think I'm gonna give this a C plus. I think Caleb Johnson was good value. I do like Harmon as a player. I just don't think they needed it as much.
Yeah, for me, it's probably like a C. I like the Caleb Johnson pick. I think he'd probably be their starter. but Arthur Smith loves hating on good running backs, so maybe not. Derek Harmon, good pick. They're kind of quadrupling down on the D line though. Like it's really already a strength for them, and they kind of add like a Cam Hayward replacement, which is good. But I don't know what the goal is necessarily. I guess unless he was the best player on their board. I don't like the Jack Sawyer pick. Of course, he's getting T.J. Watt comps from Steeler fans, but that's not gonna happen. I hate to tell you. The Will Howard pick though, I do like. Like I don't think he's anything special, but like when your only QB on the roster is Mason Rudolph, like I think Will Howard could give him a run for his money.
Hmm.
And like when they get to training camp and the 6th round picks competing with Rudolph, I think that's gonna make them give Rodgers whatever the fuck he wants that he's not signed already. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd give it like a C. Um, kind of biased take because I don't like the Steelers, but um, yeah, nothing crazy for me. But moving on to one that I really like in Seattle, I thought Gray Zabel was a fantastic pick for them.
Hmm.
They needed interior O line really badly. And they go and get it done. Kind of like the Packers not taking a receiver kind of thing there with Seattle and O line or interior O line. Nick Ebenworry in the second, perfect player for the Mike McDonald defense. I really like that one. I think Ebenworry probably could have failed if he went to the wrong team, but he ends up going to the perfect team, so I expect him to be a really good player. Elijah Arroyo, very interesting tight end option. I think this is a good spot for Milrow as well. Sit for a year behind Sam Darnold. And like given how that contract is put together, like they could kind of move on to Milrow whenever they want. So whenever they think he's ready, like I think Sam Darnold's gonna either be the backup if he's not that good or just get released outright. So I think for me this one's like an A minus B plus maybe. Because they did have I think 3 second round picks going into this.
I
So
believe so. Yeah.
good good draft for me. I think not perfect, but very solid. Filled a lot of needs, got a lot of talented players.
Yeah.
I think
It's
the Seahawks will be pretty good next year.
Yeah, in the same boat. Zabel, I think, was a great pick. Eamon Wari, obviously, he's gonna be the Kyle Hamilton of this for Mike McDaniel. Um, Arroyo's interesting. People are comparing him to Trey McBride. I don't really see it. Um, but another interesting fantasy option, I think, if we're looking at that. Milrow probably has the highest ceiling in the of any quarterback in the draft. He just has to obviously become a more consistent passer, but he's an insane athlete. Like the Riley Mills pick a lot. I think he probably would have went higher if he didn't shatter his leg. Torrey Horton's an interesting pick. He was out most of the year because of a knee injury, but had very productive seasons at Colorado State. And Damian Martinez, a running back I really like down the board, had some character issues, and people were saying he came off as immature in his pre-draft interviews. And another wide receiver, they got good value on this board. Ricky White in the seventh is a good pick as well. Good separation on him. I think I'm setting A on this draft. I really like it. Eamon Wari was one of my favorite players in the draft. But yeah, I think this is an A. I like the Seattle draft. Definitely going to be an interesting NFC West next year. Continuing with that, we got the 49ers. Kind of going back to their bread and butter. We got some D line at the top. Michael Williams, I wasn't as high on, but I think he has a very high ceiling, and I think San Francisco is the perfect place for him to achieve that ceiling. Alfred Collins, I like a lot. Might have been a slight reach, in my opinion, but I do like the pick, and obviously, like I said, same thing goes for Collins as it does for Williams. Great spot to be in. Really like the CJ West pick down the board. I thought he was going to go higher after his combine and kind of pre-draft games, workouts, anything like that. But yeah, I like the Curtis Rourke pick down the board too. I think he had a very nice season. He was playing with a torn ACL in last season, so and still put up a great and carried Indiana to a playoff appearance. So I like this draft. I think obviously with the top two picks, they can achieve their potential in San Fran. I would probably give like a B plus in that range.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm pretty aligned with you on this one. I really like what they did for the D line. Um, Not as high on Curtis Rourke, but I do like the Jordan James pick. I think, they kind of draft a running back every year, kind of in the same vein as Isaac Guerrero. The pick I don't really understand is Nick Martin. I thought there were better linebackers on the board, but they kind of know what they're doing at that spot, so I won't question it too hard. But yeah, I'd give it like a BB plus. I thought they addressed some huge issues on the team. I think O line is still a huge issue for them, and with someone like Brock Purdy, like I don't know how that's gonna go when your O line's kind of terrible. Besides Trent Williams, we'll see how that goes. But I think their defense will be quite good with Robert Saleh coming back and a lot of interesting players there, especially on the interior, getting two guys, Collins and CJ West.
Yeah, I think they were kind of hoping a tackle would fall to them at 11, but just didn't fall the way they had hoped. Just went best
Yep.
player available.
Moving on to Tampa Bay. This is one a little polarizing to me because I really like the first two picks. I don't quite understand the Ibuka pick unless they think like Mike Evans is gonna fall off or Chris Godwin's not gonna play for them. But I think he's a really good player, fits in well there. Will be a good option for them, especially with Baker. But even if Baker's not the guy, like super long term, I think he'll be good regardless. Benjamin Morrison, I think, is a classic, like Buccaneers second round steal. I think he's going to be really, really good for them. Kind of replace Carlton Davis, who they lost before last year. They've kind of done that a little bit with Zion McCollum, who's quite good, but yeah, I think he's going to really be like that CB1 for them in the future. Um, Tez Johnson down the board, really small, but really interesting player. We'll see how that goes. Maybe he'll get some kind of touches and stick on, but I don't know. Kind of a really huge outlier. I'd give this one like a B minus. I really like the top two players, and they kind of picked at the end of the rounds, so can't really criticize them too much for not having late round guys that I loved. But yeah, I like the first two picks a lot, so I'm gonna go with like a B minus.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think Morrison probably would have been one of the first corners taken if he hadn't been hurt this year, or if he wasn't dealing with so many injuries. So it really cost him the slide. Ibuka, I really like. I just don't like. I don't understand it. You already have three good wide receivers. I feel like you have more pressing needs than another wide receiver. I mean, I guess you can never have too many weapons, which is fine. But I thought Jalen McMillan looked really good towards like the second half of last year as well. I mean, obviously Godwin's coming off an injury, so maybe that's why. He's also turning 30. So I guess this is probably more looking towards the next couple years rather than this year. But good player nonetheless. I'm not Tez Johnson is just very polarizing. Being 150 is just insane, and then putting out a 4.5 40 was crazy. Obviously, play speed and 40 speed aren't directly correlated, but that was interesting to me. Uh, I do really like Benjamin Morrison, but I'm not too familiar with the rest of the picks that weren't mentioned, but I would probably say like a C plus. I think Ibuka is gonna be productive in his rookie year, but I wouldn't expect him to be like a star like he would be in other places until maybe year 2 or 3. All right, we got the top pick in the draft, Tennessee Titans now. Obviously going Cam Ward one, best quarterback in the draft. Um, Other than that, I'm looking at this board. I like Oladejo in the second. I thought he was an interesting prospect. Very high ceiling on him. Alik Ayominor from Stanford is another guy I like. Thought they got good value on him. You can obviously go back and watch his Colorado game 2 years ago. That was where he had like 250 yards on Travis Hunter. Um, that was an interesting pick there, but they signed Xavier Restrepo in undrafted free agency to pair him back up with Cam Ward, but honestly, besides I mean, Kevin Winston's a pretty good player. I'm not too high on this draft. I think I would probably. I mean, you're getting your franchise QB, so like, if he's as good as I think he's gonna be, like, it's gonna be an A. But like, based off everything else, I think I would give it like a B plus, strictly being carried by Cam Ward. But yeah,
Yeah, I like the Cam Ward pick. I like Kevin Winston Jr. Thought they added two Interesting options at wide receiver. I don't think it's anything special though, and I'm not quite as high on Cam Ward as you. I think he's the best QB in the draft. I think it's a really fine pick. I think he'll be a franchise guy, but I don't think he's quite like that franchise changer at QB. So I don't think it would sway up that high for me. I think I'd give this one like a B minus. Don't love it, but I think they got like franchise QB, really good safety option. Interesting receivers, and some help on the edge. So don't love it, don't hate it, but can't give it much higher than a B minus again.
Yeah.
Um,
Wrapping it
and
up.
then the final um, team, I guess, Washington Commanders. Not a lot of picks this year,
Mhm.
but this one's gonna be pretty easy for me. I think picking at 29 in the first two rounds and you come away with Josh Connerly and Trey Amos, like I think that's an easy like A minus.
Mhm.
I don't really know the rest of these guys. Jalen Lane, pretty good player. Not too familiar with him, but I did hear some good things. The other guys I don't know at all. But when you come away with Josh Connerly and Trey Amos, like at the end of the first two rounds, like I think that's fantastic. I think you're just taking the best player on the board, position of need. Absolutely love it. So I'm gonna have to go with A minus for Commanders, especially given the lack of picks to come away with those guys.
Yeah, Connerly was another tackle I was high on. Um, I mean, obviously they've already added Laramie Tunsil this offseason, so they just locked down their tackle position to protect Jaden Daniels for the next 10 years, 8 to 10 years, we'll say, with Tunsil. But yeah, I like Trey Amos as well. Very physical, lack of picks. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not too familiar with the guys down the board, especially Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I'm not too familiar with him. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, when you already have your franchise quarterback in place and you're locking down a tackle spot, adding to your defense that struggled last year, I think I'd probably be like a B plus. I think right around there. I think that's a fair grade for them. But yeah, that was our last team. We just covered all 32 drafts and gave out some rankings. That's gonna be it for this episode. But we will be back next week. We're gonna go over NBA playoff breakdown, maybe some MLB, and I think next week we're gonna do. I think next week we should do our first draft. We haven't done one yet, so kind of throw that in at the end of the episode. So thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, subscribe. Go follow us on Twitter at Chicago's Couch Scouts. Also have a TikTok. We're gonna start posting on there soon. Chicago Couch Scouts as well. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.